So first off, for this project, what I wanted to do was explore the whole phenomenon of brand identity. Before doing that, before getting my first interview in, I'd like to take a look at my brand identity and the things that I like to identify myself with. Obviously, in the paper, there were four different sources that I took into account when taking in why we buy certain things or why we stick to one identity. In the first source, it was James Bond. They took a look at the James Bond movies and why people look at the brand in those movies and go with those brands. And for that, it was, Bollinger, Aston Martin, and Jaguar. Obviously, the people that want to be like James Bond get the Jaguars or the Aston Martins so they can be the outlaws or the heroes. For me, I wouldn't say that I would go as far as to buy a car to identify with a certain brand, to identify with James Bond, but maybe, for instance, I would go with Nike, like the shoe here. For me, I would say it was to be identified with certain athletes, such as, maybe LeBron James or Kobe Bryant, people like that who are, the best in athletics, seeing as though that's something that I'm really into, is getting into sports. For the second, it talked about how, adolescent teenage girls maybe stick with a certain brand, like Limited Two as they're growing up because they want to be like their friends and they want to fit in to a certain group. For me, I would say, maybe Nike would be something like that. I think it fits in with a certain friend group. But more for me, I guess when I'm growing up, Nike was something that you wanted. And then whenever you get more to the college level, you want to fit in, you buy something like an Apple product. Because if you look around classroom or, if you're stall and you look up into the class in an auditorium setting, you pretty much see a lot of MacBooks. When I got to Georgia, I didn't have a MacBook, I had a Dell. I wouldn't say that I felt out of place, but when I got the MacBook, I think I felt like I was more fitting in, I guess. Plus, utility-wise, it's a good machine. Um, you know, Third, it talked about how, packaging. We like to have things because of how they look, how easy it is to use them, and we're going to continue to do that. In the example, it said something sort of like Arizona iced tea is something that, you're going to use because it's a wide mouth can, makes you feel like you are, sipping booze in an old Western saloon. I don't know for sure that that's ever been something that I have tried to relate to. But, packaging wise, this Gatorade here, you see it in my hand, doesn't look like it does, in an athlete's hand, but when you see one of the Williams sisters or somebody like that using it, they drink it, it looks like you are, in the game. You can see fierce grape, things like that. It just makes it look sleek, makes you feel like an athlete while you're drinking it. And finally, the fourth one was just kind of like, you keep coming back to brands and being loyal to brands if they work for you. You could come back to, the Apple in that situation. I've had it for about a year now. It tends to work for me. I had a iPhone, still have one iPhone, and when the time comes that I would like to get a new phone, then I would go with the iPhone because it tends to be, something that works for me, and I'll be loyal to that brand. So for me, I would say, go with the Nikes, the Apples. It's just things that a lot of times you don't pay attention to, but it's working for you and it helps you fit in with the people that you surround yourselves with the most. So that tends to be what I go with. Our next interview, I'm going to be interviewing Sean Spade, who is not only a friend and colleague of mine, but he's actually somebody that I knew. He moved in to my school when he was younger from Florida. So coming into a mountain town, he really, had to do some different things to fit in, as far as clothing-wise go. He may have, changed his clothing, things like that, to fit in with a new friend group. We don't know that yet. We'll see when we interview him. Also, he's a middle school teacher, so he sees the adolescents. He sees kids trying to fit in and things like that and take on a whole new brand identity. So we'll see how that goes and maybe give us a little bit more of a look into the whole brand identity culture and why people buy brands they do and continue to, take on the brands that they feel like personifies that role that they want to be. So we'll see how it goes.